Gentlemen, and I use the term loosely, we're back in the shop, and I bought this gym, I don't know, last Saturday, so a week ago, and was looking on Marketplace and come across this thing. So the guy was selling it as a basically a donor vehicle for a LS swap, and the transmission was tore up. And it didn't make any sense for why it would be an LS swap, because really the only thing you'd be getting would be the engine, and if you could use the front drive accessories, which are so really similar to truck stuff. The pump is a little different on this one and everything, but these are a very tight platform to work in, especially this one is an XL 2005 model, and it actually has rear air, so you can see all the hoses and stuff. So if you want to work on anything on this side, good luck, because you've got all these AC lines, you've got all the heater lines, hoses, and then now with the complexity of the rear air, it comes over and goes down. But if you look, they actually capped the rear air part, so while I got the engine out, I'm gonna remove what hoses I can for the rear air part, and I don't know, I may do the rear heater delete as well. But it had a new AC compressor on it, and the genius that put that on did not understand much of anything. The bottom bolt was about 4 inches too long, and he had some broke off pieces of something for spacers. The top bolt wasn't tight, the back bolt wasn't in there. It was, yeah. So anyway, I wasn't gonna pull the engine out, but here we are. So I got transmission out of it, and actually had another transmission ready to go. Got it all back together, was adding fluid to it, did my initial let's look underneath it and make sure fluid's not running everywhere, and it wasn't initially. So then I had my buddy back it up, and then I was topping off the coolant, and come back in, and after he had backed it up, there was a puddle about here with a little line all the way back to a bigger puddle underneath the truck. So I told him to shut it down, and we pulled it back forward, rolled it back forward, and put it back on the rack and let it up in the air with it running, and it was just absolutely pouring out of the between the where the converter goes into the transmission, into the pump. So, of course, the only way you can get to that is to pull the transmission. I mean, it couldn't have been something simple, right? So, at that point, there's really nothing you can do but pull the transmission back out so you can figure out what's going on with it. I went ahead and pulled it back out, pulled the converter out, and it looked like there was some wear, gouging, or whatever on the brand new converter where the pump bushing is. So I looked inside at the pump bushing, and it looked like it was something had happened between the converter and the bushing, and I don't know if somehow it hit the seal or what, but anyway, so I had to carry it back over to my transmission guy, and went ahead and took him the one I pulled out of here so we can have both of them built. And anyway, so while the transmission was out, I was like, well, it's only a couple more bolts and then we'll have the whole thing out, right? So I did not realize that 2005 had a DOD engine. I thought that DOD only came about in when they went to the 07 to 13 body style. But anyway, when I went to look at the truck, I looked down and saw that it had the valley cover on it for DOD, and was like, wow, that's strange that it would have DOD. This truck actually has about 250,000 miles on it, and it's a very, very clean truck, in my opinion, for an '05 with 250,000 miles on it. I mean, the body's straight. It's got nice interior in it, and the seat's not tore up, and the interior's nice, gray interior. I really like the gauges on these. I got some nice gauges. It has a stock radio, and it works very well. It has all of the manuals in the glove box. It has the CD or DVD for the 2005 Envoy, so I was very surprised to see all that, because typically that's not there. Fortunately, it does have a sunroof. I hate sunroofs. But I didn't know that they had rear air and everything, but you can see it's got the third row seats and all, and my wife was wanting a third row vehicle, so the guy wasn't even 10 minutes away, so went and looked at it, and the thing ran like a sewing machine. I mean, it really ran well. I was very impressed with it. So again, I was just going to put the transmission in it and drive it and be happy, but we know that'll never happen with me. So I pulled the engine out, and I'd asked him initially if it was the aluminum 5.3, and he said no, it was an iron block. And I was like, well, that's odd. I would assume it would be aluminum. I was right. He was wrong. So anyway, it has the little cross on the pistons, which back then the aluminum ones were the L33s, right, that had the aluminum block and the cross on the pistons and everything. But since it was DOD, they had to have a different nomenclature, so I think it's a L86 or something like that. But so I was like, well, I want to regasket the engine, because with the mileage and everything, I'd just, again, with if the transmission was in it and the truck was together and running and driving, then I would have left it alone. Sure I would. So, but anyway, I decided to go ahead and pull it, put a cam in it, new lifters, get rid of the DOD stuff, because with that kind of mileage. But if you look over here, these are the rocker arms off of it. That's 250,000 miles. Very, very clean. It does appear that the pan gasket had been replaced, and that the valve cover, as you can see, the blue, has been replaced. So, but the pickup tube O-ring was hard as a brick, so I wanted to, put a pickup tube O-ring, a new pan gasket, clean it up, because you can tell it's pretty dirty. Now, I know everybody's going to say, oh, well, you should, this is where I was pulling the, it had 3 broke bolts. So, yeah, you should get rid of this pan, it's horrible, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get it, but, it lasted 250,000 miles in this configuration, and the only thing that I found that works is a C6 Corvette pan, which we did on the other Trailblazer SS I did with the blower on it. And you have to buy a bracket from somebody that bolts. I don't know where it bolts, so I don't remember. But these are brackets for the AC compressor, and that's not typically on any other LS pan that I'm aware of. So it's just got this weird little hole through it, which is always strange and funny to me. But that's for the front differential if it was all-wheel drive, and thank God this one's not all-wheel drive. I probably would have left the engine in it. So anyway, I'm just going to clean it up. It's obviously filthy. New pickup tube, O-ring, and then I have another oil pump. I'm probably going to put another oil pump on it, and just freshen it up and just get it back together for now. It did have a weird intake on it, so typically, you had the Trailblazer SS intake, and I was trying to see if I see it. I don't see it, what I did with it. But so it had a 4-bolt throttle body on it, but the rest of the intake looked like a Gen 3 truck intake. So I had a Trailblazer intake. So obviously I'm going to use the better parts that I have for it because it doesn't cost me anything. So I swapped everything over. The main difference I found was the injector height was different and the fuel rails were different, so I had to modify those to make the, I forget which rails I used. Oh, I think I used I had to use the rails off of the other intake on that one, and then use a spacer and cut some stuff. Yeah, because the height, the tabs were different on the fuel rails, so it was, just enough of a difference that it wouldn't work straightforward. So I got that set up, and I actually had it all put together. I had the cold air intake and stuff and all on there with the K&N tube and everything. And there's the intake. That's the TBSS intake with the 05 injectors on it. And then this is the 05 throttle body. Luckily it was the same 4-bolt pattern. So I got it back together, put it all on there because I had convinced myself I wasn't going to pull the engine. Whoops. And and then I ended up pulling it all back apart anyway, so whatever. But it should run pretty good, I hope. Like I say, it ran like a sewing machine before. I hated to pull it out, but I just, with the DOD stuff, I couldn't bring myself to keep it in there because, it's not if it fails, it's when it fails kind of deal. And again, with the mileage and all, and I just decided to go ahead and do it. So, but speaking of oil pump and pressure and everything, so I've driven the 62 a little bit and we're still having problems. So the oil pump that's in it, that was the one that the guy I got it from had on the engine when I got it, and it basically pegs my gauge as soon as you crank it up. It pegs my 100 psi transducer, and after a little bit of run time, the valve train gets clattery, but then when you come to a stop, it goes away. So my theory is that pump is such that it is moving so much pressure and volume that I'm assuming that it may be pumping the pan and maybe just all the oil's up top, and I don't know, or it's cavitating or something. But the thing is the pressure on the gauge isn't changing. Of course, it's pegged, so I don't really know what it is, and I know that's not good and it's not ideal. But I was talking to Michael about it, and he's saying that he asked what oil I was running in it. Of course, I always run Rotella 1540 and all my turbo stuff. So he told me to drop down to like a 530 or something like that and see if that'll help get it down. So, I mean, I'm not very, I don't think it's going to work, but I mean, at this point versus pulling it apart again, I'm sick of pulling it apart, and if I got to pull it apart, then I'm just going to park it because I'm absolutely sick and tired of pulling it apart and trying to fix stuff and then just having more problems. And if I got to change the oil pump on it, the chassis is such that I'm not going to be able to do it in the truck. And then if I got to change the lifters, you got to pull the heads, and it's just a domino effect. So again, if just dropping to lighter oil doesn't work, then I'm just done with it. I'm gonna park it and let it sit until I feel like messing with it again, because it has basically been a thorn in my side since October. Nothing's really gone right with the truck. I mean, it really has been struggle street on that truck, and I just can't take it anymore. I just need to step away from it and then maybe take it back to my dad's and put it back on the lift where it was happy and leave it for another 30 years or something. But, I try to do everything such where I wouldn't have to deal with this, and here I am having to deal with it. So it's got, BTR lifters in it. It's got new everything, and I'm just very upset about just everything with it. Of course, it doesn't run that great, and it's not very fast, but I know it's not tuned and only has like 10 degrees of timing in it because of how we had it when it was had the 6.2 in it. The other thing is, I think it's getting like single-digit fuel economy, which is completely unacceptable for a little 5.3 and a light truck. So I don't know what's going on with it, but I'm sick of it, and I need to move on. So I just can't keep pulling it apart and wasting my time messing with it, chasing my tail on it, and physically and mentally, I'm just not with it right now to continue to mess with it. So hopefully this thing runs right, because after the lifter ordeal in that one, I call it lifter roulette, because I think I've seen about every brand of lifter fail, and I guarantee you they're not all made by, who the box they come in. There's got to be like just one or two manufacturers of these lifters, and everybody's just reboxing and branding them like they do everything else. So, it really makes you concerned when you put one together. If the lifters weren't so difficult to get to, if it was like a small block Ford where you pulled the intake off and you can get to them, I mean, you could swap lifters in a small block Ford in a couple minutes. Whereas this, you got to pull it down to this to get the lifters out, and that's one of the things I don't like about the LS is the fact that you can't get to the lifters like on a small block Ford or Chevrolet where you just pull the intake. So it just really makes me question what lifters I want to put back into this, because I do not want to have to deal with this one again. I've seen the Johnson link bars fail. I've seen the Morel fail. I've seen pretty much all of them fail. And it's just, again, it doesn't matter how much you spend on a set of lifters. It seems like they're problematic. So Michael said he runs the Elgin lifters. So I don't know. And you look at the OEM GM, and even they were known for being noisy and problematic. So I think the lifter issue's been going on for probably 20 years or something, because I remember probably about 25 years ago when I was building Ford and was getting a set of lifters, and there was something going on back then about the manufacturer of lifters and whatever else. So apparently it's been going on for a while, and now you've got all these foreign manufacturers and stuff on them and everything, and they're just not a good quality lifter anymore. So anyway, that's the update for now. Get this thing back together, hopefully get my transmission coming up so I can drive this thing, and then we'll change the oil on the 62 and see if that does anything but waste my money.